This is Kathy Beal of EmpowermentUnlimited.net with a quick look at the Astro reckoning that is coming for Alex Jones. He is a right-wing commentator, host of the site InfoWars, and as I'm recording this, he has just been hit with a $4.1 million judgment by two parents of children who were murdered at Sandy Hook. It's a defamation lawsuit because he, for years, has been claiming that this massacre, this mass shooting did not occur, and has unleashed all kinds of torment on the parents who lost their kids in this horrible event. So on August 4th, the jury came back. On August 5th, as I'm making this video, they're deliberating for punitive damages. But let's look, some interesting things happened just recently, and let's look at his chart and why some of this stuff is important, why I would even bother telling you about it. So let's look at what his basic personality is. He has what is called a grand trine in air. So you see this green triangle connecting his sun in Aquarius with Jupiter, which makes everything bigger. His Saturn in Gemini, the sign of communicating, and the South Node, which is what he does, where he goes, his default behavior, and his moon, well, it's a solar chart, so I don't know the exact degree of his moon, but it's close to this position. So his nature on the inside, but more importantly, his Uranus is clearly in this configuration, which makes him a provocateur, a rabble rouser, a disruptor, a force of chaos. And he kind of like has no choice but to communicate. These are all, the air signs are all intellectual. They're full of words. When you have a grand trine like that, the energy just flows and flows and flows and flows and flows. And you look for something that is in between two of the points to act as grounding. And in this case, that would be his North Node in Sagittarius, which unfortunately doesn't seem to be doing much grounding. In fact, it seems to be pushing him to broadcasting all of his ideas. Sagittarius rules the ninth house. It is a house of philosophy, of your broadcasting, the media. This would be his podcast, his radio show, his YouTube channel. All of those things would be part of what he would be driven to do. So he can't just think this stuff up. He must share it. Sagittarius does have a potential for learning, for wisdom, for actually teaching, but I think circumstances have borne out that that is not the way he's doing things. So a couple of things are really interesting about this. Now, first of all, that Sun-Jupiter combination in Aquarius is very close to the U.S. moon, the moon in the July 4th, 1776 chart, which at the time that I use is 27 degrees Aquarius. So this would make him link up with the American people, and he's had a huge listenership, a huge following. And secondly, it would mean that whatever is going on with him right now, which we're going to discuss, could have a widespread impact on the country. And indeed, that does seem to be playing out. So the first thing I want to mention is Saturn, the planet of adulting, the planet of restriction, of burdens, of obligations, of commitment, of ramifications, of consequences, has been moving across his Sun and Jupiter this year, and it's going to retrograde over them in the next couple of months. It'll be over his Sun at some point in September, and then again at the end of the year, early next year, it's going to move back. So he's in the middle of a multi-part process of reckoning of things not going quite so well for him. Saturn on your sun doesn't feel really well. Saturn on Jupiter is saying, clamp it down. And as Saturn is doing this, it's flowing immediately into the other parts of the grand trine. So ultimately, he's going to have Saturn trine Saturn early next year when it gets back to 28 degrees. But for right now, there is the probability of some kind of consequences and a judgment came through. You can look at this as like the judgment card in the tarot. So this big judgment has come through, but there's more than that. Let's look at another really big piece of what is going on involves, and Saturn, by the way, is the traditional ruler of Aquarius. The modern ruler of Aquarius is Uranus, which I've just drawn down in the third house of communication, of papers. Uranus is, since the beginning of July, at 18 degrees. I apologize for my crappy writing. 18 degrees Taurus. At the beginning of this week, on August 1st, Mars, planet of action, and the North Node, which is like this way to the future, the three combined. There was a triple conjunction. Mars acts as a trigger. So it set off Uranian destabilizing, shocking, surprising activity. And what happened on the 1st of August? The plaintiff's attorneys in this litigation by the two Sandy Hook parents were legally able to use a whole bunch of information that Jones's attorneys had mistakenly uploaded to a shared Dropbox. Under Texas law, there's a procedure when you're an attorney and you get a hold of something you aren't supposed to have, you give notice to the other side. They've got a set amount of time to get rid of it. Jones's attorneys did not follow the procedure. So on August 1st, the date that Mars joined with Uranus and the North Node in Jones's solar house, having to do with communication, this stuff became known to to the opposing side. And it involves an awful lot more than just him. For one thing, it's proven that he's lied about a lot of things on the stand, and that's probably going to lead to, well, it could lead to some perjury charges. Saturn on his sun, Jupiter, ramifications, consequences, judgment. But for the bigger picture, you remember I mentioned that his sun Jupiter conjunction links up with the US moon. Well, a lot of that information seems to have something to do with the insurrection of January 6th. There's an indication that he had a lot of communication with Roger Stone on there. And the January 6th committee has asked for access to a lot of this information. Jones was leading rallies on the days before the insurrection. He was leading Stop the Steal rallies. He was saying fairly incendiary, inflammatory things. And so there is a greater piece, a collective piece to this. So that is one very interesting thing. Another thing that's important to notice is that Neptune, the planet of illusion, deceit, delusion, big lie, is exactly squaring his nodes. His nodes are in the communication signs. And in this solar chart, that Neptune falls in his second house, his solar second house of money. And this revelation, this tranche of documents that suddenly got revealed indicates that InfoWars is making something like $800,000 a day. That he actually really does have a lot more money than he's been letting on. That's one piece of this. But this Neptune squaring the nodes is also bringing to light how he deals with that grand trine, what he broadcasts, what his InfoWars messaging has been saying, what message he's been sending out in the media. And if it has not been true, and there are suggestions, entertainment purposes only, that a lot of it is not. So that is a feature of this as well, another part of the reckoning. But wait, there is even more. Transiting Pluto, Pluto in Capricorn. We've heard lots of things this year about the U.S. having its Pluto return, because Pluto has been going back and forth around 27 degrees, 26 degrees. Capricorn, Pluto is the big money planet. Venus is the mere mortal money planet. It's in his solar 12th, which is hidden stuff. Venus in Capricorn would really want things that last. This is not somebody who would fritter money away, actually. And Venus stuck there could have a lot of secrets that are now coming out in public with Pluto moving over it. And in fact, that's part of what is happening with this gigantic disclosure of documents. But in addition to that, this does not bode well for his being able to hold on to his money, because Pluto is the planet of death and rebirth, or the influence of it, tremendous amount of regeneration. And at least it's something that's extraordinarily intense, and it is threatening his stability, and his long-term stability. Additionally, we had a lunar eclipse in Taurus. I'm so sorry, in Scorpio, up here in the middle of May, at about 25 Scorpio, directly opposing his Mars. So this lunar eclipse was in his solar 10th house of his public persona. And eclipses are not one-day events. They play out their processes, and they play out over a period of time. They build up, and then they spend a while going. This particular one had been amping up in strength since probably the end of October of 2021. And lunar eclipses always have massive revelations. They bring things to a head. They're like a full moon on steroids, and they start to close down chapters. So there's some hugely public endings going on for him, and massive revelations dealing with scorpionic stuff, which would be lies, what he's been saying about deaths, and what's been going on with money, particularly other people's money, because part of how InfoWars has been, it's been earning money based on all this stuff that he's been saying on the air. And this was opposing his Mars in Taurus. So he's really geared toward putting a lot of energy into making money off communication. That is what that is going on there. So his this final thing I want to mention, going back to the Mars-Uranus North Node conjunction at 18, Mars has already moved off that. Mars is moving to his natal Mars, who's having a Mars return. And there are a whole bunch of things that are going to continue to rattle the spot of this triple conjunction. Uranus is sitting at that spot until sometime early in October. Uranus is going to go retrograde on the 24th of October, but it's still going to sit at 18 until, I'm sorry, the 24th of August. It's still going to sit at 18 Taurus until early October. And all of the rest of August, there are various other bodies in the sky. They're going to hit Uranus. They're going to hit that point, bring more to light, shake things up. And Mars and Pluto in the sky are in a really easy link around just after the Aquarius full moon on the end of next week. So there'll be a whole bunch more coming out with this. So Astro reckoning with Saturn and Pluto both plowing down on various things in his chart. I do not see an easy time at all. If this was interesting to you, please like, share, subscribe. I have regular forecasts for every week, month, new moon and full moon, and the sporadic political video like this one.